Good morning, everybody. It's your Self-Shift crew back for another Saturday morning podcast. We've got Patrick here, Derek,
Derek.
and Doug.
Hey, everybody.
All right, let's jump right into it. So we've got a really interesting topic for today, one of Derek's favorites, and this is stop worrying about fear and rejection, or maybe better said, overcoming fear and rejection. And as usual, we're going to start out with a couple of quotes. I've got one from Michael Jordan and one from Peter McWilliams. Sorry. The first one from Michael Jordan is I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. Second one, rejection is a universal experience. Embrace it. It's a sign you're challenging yourself, taking risks, and asking for something beyond your comfort zone. All right, two good quotes to kind of start off the discussion here today. I'll give a quick personal perspective. We'll go around the horn and then we'll double click on some of these. Dealing, and I would describe it for me as actually fear of rejection. It probably is a better way to say it for me personally. And for many years, probably up until 10 years ago, it was a big deal, right? And that I interpreted rejection or sometimes even disagreement with me as a personal attack or reflection on me or as somebody as something that I was not worthy of what I needed to be. So it was a very interesting set of dynamics, right? Because rejection and disagreement are a normal part of life, but when you internalize those and take it as a ding to your personal worthiness, it can become a problem. So very important topic for me. And Derek, I know that you've done a lot of meditation, a lot of thought on this as well. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so there's three words there at the top of it when you kicked it off, I think, that are, worry, fear, and rejection. Those three words, you know, for a lot of people, including myself for years, it's like a thief. It just robs you of your life. And those three words, are something that comes from, experiences you have in life. You apply for a job, you get turned down, you apply for school, you get rejected, you grow up being said you're less than, or your father or mother may not have been the nicest person to you and the way they talked to you or treated you. And so it conditions you to think less of yourself and all those experiences ultimately ends up devalue yourself, within yourself. And I think that for me, for years, you know, I struggled with this myself, like you, Patrick. It's like you don't see yourself as valuable because of being rejected or told no or being called this name or that name. So for me, it's about overcoming the worry and the fear and the rejection through really, looking at what it is that I want for my life as far as a value system, what I want, to see myself aspiring to and what I want to become, every day, that better version of myself, and really, taking it to heart to, eliminate that worrying about what everybody thinks about you, or worrying about whether I got the job or not, or am I gonna be told no, or am I going to be accepted in this group of circle of friends? And like worrying from that perspective really, just keeps you in a nervous state of energy, and it just, it impacts your life greatly. So that's something in the last 5 years for me, I've had to really rise above this perspective, and holding on to this, what other people think of you or what they say to you, or telling you you'll never become this or you'll never become that. I've had to really work on rising above that, and done it through meditation and journaling and so forth. So yeah, I think that's leading us off, kicking us off. That's what I would say this morning.
Doug?
Yeah, this one's an interesting topic for me. I guess where other topics we've talked about, they've been things I felt like I've struggled and really worried about and those kind of things. But I'm coming from a different perspective here, which is I've always been kind of a why not guy. Why not go for the things? Rejection isn't typically something that holds me back. I think I've always been, maybe it's a bit of a daydreamer, or always envisioning, what if it works out?
Mm,
What if I go ask that girl out and she says yes? Like, if I don't go ask, I'll never know, right? So I've always been a bit of more focused on those kind of things. I mean, it would be incorrect to say that I don't, let what I'm thinking other people are thinking about me influence me. But I think a lot of times, as I think about those big life things, or even some of the daily things, I tend to be more on the side of, why not? What if it does work out? And I'll never know. Like, I guess regret has been more of a driver. To avoid regret
yeah.
has been more of a driver of the fear of rejection. But so that's some initial thoughts for me.
That's super interesting. Yeah, because like you noted, we tend to have a common theme among the three of us. Some of the other topics that we've discussed, but as you described it, and thinking back, I see that with you, like you're willing to take a bit of a risk and ask why not. And that actually explains a lot of your behavior over the last 20 years that I've
It
known you.
does explain
Um,
some things.
for me, up until 10 years ago, I wish I would have had that attitude, Doug, since
Yeah.
I was little. But I'll be transparent with you, man. Up until about 10 years ago, the the fear of rejection, or I don't know, the fear of failure, whatever, I would actually probably, to a certain extent, arrange my life so that I was not in a position where rejection was likely. So I would have to be honest and say I probably did things or arranged things in my life to minimize the exposure to rejection or failure. Um, Changed about 10 years ago when I guess I adopted the Doug approach and started embracing mission based risk taking. If it was important, if it was aligned with my values, something that I really thought I needed to do, then I would take the risk. Right. And then that it dovetails very closely on the topic that we discussed several weeks ago, is focusing on what you can control, right? If you
Yeah.
focusing on what you can control and on your mission, the outcome is really not in your control, right? We talked about that already. Focus on what you can. Outcome could be impacted by other factors that goes beyond your sphere of influence or your control, and you can't do it. And when I put those together, mission-based risk taking, and by the way, you can't control the outcome anyway, it became a much easier model for me. And personally, I've grown by leaps and bounds in the last 10 years and in the previous 47 years, because of some of those concepts, that we've discussed on our sessions here, and then taking factoring in, focusing on what you control and taking mission-based risks. And, that manifested itself in a lot of the work um, that I did at the organization that all three of us were employed at one time, and some of the even bigger risks that I've taken based upon my mission over the last several years. So yeah, that makes perfect sense, Doug. Derek, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, as you were sharing that, I connected with an experience I had in 2020. I always was like fearful of taking a risk of doing something way outside the box, way outside the comfort zone. So I had the experience of skydiving and jumping out of a plane at 18,000 feet. And so, previously in this space of like living in fear and worry and, from that energy, I would have never done that, but I guess, in this shift of becoming a new best version of myself, I decided, why not? Like to Doug's point, like, why
Yeah.
not? What's the worst that can happen? I die, so, but then it's like, the great thing is what if I live and experience this blissful, peaceful, like incredible adrenaline rushing moment? And so, like, I just decided I'm going to go up and do this thing. And if I die, I die. If I live, I have an amazing, awesome experience to share with a lot of people. So I think for me, that was a great example of, you know, telling myself, because to your point, like rejection and regret sort of go hand in hand. If you allow others' opinions or telling you shouldn't do this because, it's not safe, you reject the notion of wanting to do something for yourself or that's going to be valuable for yourself, and then like down the road you end up regretting that. So like, I just decided I'm just going to do this, and I'm not going to have any regrets about it. If I die, I die. I won't know. So hey.
So as usual, Derek gives very extreme examples. Some of my examples are a little bit more tame. So some of the risks that I've taken, I'm going to not talk about from a job or career perspective, is that facing head on my fears, which are probably equivalent to skydiving, and it's dancing.
Yeah.
Like dancing at a wedding was terrifying for me. And a completely irrational fear that people would, I don't know, move away from me and reject me on the dance floor. I don't know. But and then ended up, facing it head on. The why not that Doug described there. Actually took dancing lessons. I can't dance worth a darn, but at least I get out there and I build enough self confidence and I'll go out there and move around. And I'm sure people are probably laughing at me because I'm laughing at myself. So that's another key thing about embracing rejection, the fear, and moving forward. Another one that is kind of key to me is public speaking, right? In the sense that, I think it's natural to have a fear of public speaking, but forcing yourself to get in and actually do that type of thing. So, what I did to become more proficient at that or become more comfortable with it, actually right over here, I have a public address system and a microphone where I would give speeches or give presentations in my basement to myself with amplification so that I could actually become comfortable with it. And then, force myself to, get up and speak and volunteer for presentations and that type of thing, which has kind of become part of my brand at this point. So interesting stuff there. Doug, I'm gonna double click on what you described earlier. So the Doug why not approach. Have you ever, and you mentioned regret too. So what percentage of the time, because I think this will benefit our listeners a lot, what percentage of the time has your why not take a chance approach resulted in good things versus abject failures?
I don't know if I can answer that question with a, percentage or that kind of thing. I could tell you, I don't know, you talked about detaching from outcomes, you talked about judgment of others, you talked about what's in your control, and those are all things that I kind of think about. But a lot of times it's sort of this, I don't know if it's mindset's the right word, but I tend to focus more on what could be the positive outcomes. And, again, you talk about risk versus reward. Even, I'll play with the sports betting sites or the, around Derby time horse racing, and I'll do the higher risk bets where you're betting exactas or you're doing other things just because, like, I think about, well, if it works out, I get the bigger reward. I get more dollars. I hope the IRS isn't listening. But, again, I guess I end up, when I think about things, as you know, evaluating job changes, I tend to be quick to think about, well, if it does work out, I'm going to enjoy this part. I'm going to enjoy that part. It's not to say that I don't fear the judgment of others or I don't, there isn't a part of me that thinks about that. But I guess I'm trying to connect it to different things you all have said, aligning to the values. I guess my values are more like, what do I think about myself?
Mm,
And do I think less of myself if I don't try? Or do I think less of myself based on someone else's feelings about me? Like when you talk about at different times trying to present an architecture approach to someone and you feel like they're judging it or maybe they're rejecting it, I think they don't get it. And it's more them than me. But again, this is the whole thing. So I tend to think about what if it does work out. I mean, but I will say the growth mindset notion is something that
mhm.
really I've become aware of in the last few years. And it was more just daydreaming about the positive outcomes and deciding that's why I should do something than fearing the negative outcomes. But with growth mindset, I've also learned to like step back as something occurs and think about like, okay, that really didn't work out, but what did I learn from it?
Yeah.
And so even then I'm taking a positive thing from it. And I know I've been talking for a few minutes here, but I will say The other thing with growth mindset is that notion of dot 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 yet. So in the same way as I embrace like why not try it, I think, well, I've never been able to do that yet, or I don't know how to do that yet. So it's saying like even if I can't do it at this moment and I fail at this moment, I can do things to learn and move and be able to do it in the future.
Yeah,
So I don't
you
have a
touched on
percent for you.
well, maybe for the next session, if you get to at least 3 digits to the right of the decimal point, that'd be great. Um, is a couple of key things that you mentioned just there that really resonated with me is, the scarcity versus abundance mindset. I think you call it the growth mindset. I think it's pretty much the same thing, but realizing that everybody can move forward, and the fact that we live in a time when we don't have to necessarily constrain ourselves with scarcity, right? We grow, we can have abundance, and those around us can have abundance, and we all can all raise all boats and those types of things. The other thing that you mentioned, I think, is really, really key is when you're the why not, the Doug why not approach is what will I think of myself? And that's something that has really factored into my mindset over the last 10 years as well. Like, I've become so much less concerned with what everybody think of me. Does everybody think I'm a good guy? Everybody likes me versus what do I think of myself? Because at the end of the day, we are all the instruments of our own lives, right? And we're responsible for our own happiness, our own growth, our own development. And we are the best judges for the most part. There's probably some exceptions of that, of what we need to do to be the best version of ourselves. Derek, I can sense you've got something epiphanous to say, and you're on
You're
mute.
muted.
You're on mute, buddy.
Oh, sorry. I was just curious. I was thinking about your dance lessons. You said your public speaking. You got you practice. What'd you do for dance lessons? Turn Hitch on in your basement, and like the date doctor gave you lessons.
There are two things. I actually did take formal dance lessons about 5 or 6 years ago,
Awesome.
but also to refresh myself, put the Hitch movie on, that one scene that you mentioned to me,
Yeah, it's like
and it was better than all the dance lessons that I've had in my entire life,
awesome.
which are not many. So yeah,
Did you
so
take
a
lessons
YouTube
to
video.
dance as a couple or by yourself? Like you were going to perform a dance move like
No, it was
Napoleon
a
Dynamite?
couple. The formal dance lessons were couple. I did much better on the Hitch lesson though. It's actually good.
Yeah,
If you need to learn how to dance, Doug, go for it.
yeah. It's very insightful.
And,
It'll
and
take.
what and do it. And once and I know this is going to sound very cliche. Once because I danced at a wedding a couple of weeks ago, right? Is once you get over the fear, the gripping tight anxiety of, oh my God, people are going to stare at me. I don't know how to dance, and my partner's gonna reject me because I'm like got two left feet. You actually have fun. You
Yeah.
listen to the music, and so it becomes, not only are you releasing this fear or overcoming the fear of rejection, but you're moving into a place of having joy and the growth mindset that Doug was referring to there. It's the same side of the coin. So cool. So Derek, I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, it's good. I just wanted to throw that in because I thought that was important. I have a really great. I have to say my son, 17, graduating high school. He played football this last year, and he had an experience with the adult coaches and so forth, and it was just a lot of turmoil, a lot of challenge, and he decided to walk away from the team because it was no longer serving his best interest. It didn't align to his values. It just wasn't a good, healthy environment, and it was dragging him down, like worry, fear, just anxiety, massive anxiety. Walked away, and today he has no friends at school because all of his friends were football players, and they blamed him for this, that, and the other. But he was rejected, and so what he did with that is, instead of like letting it take him into a negative space, he focused on last year. He started last fall after he quit. He went out and learned how to deer hunt. So he had some training on hunting. And so he did that and got his first deer. He ended up starting to work out, started doing meditation, started working out. He started, now he's, he has a purpose and a mission. He's just signed up for college, where he's going to go. And he just told me last week he started taking lessons in martial arts, and he's loving it. And so the point I'm making there is, in the moment of being rejected, he had a decision to make, and he made a decision to grow, that growth mindset you were talking about. And so that is very important as we connect with, how do we overcome this? Well, it's about you choosing to move yourself forward and choose to connect with things that's going to propel you forward, and make that decision for yourself. And you got this, and you can do it. And so I just thought that example of what I've witnessed and talking to him over the last 6 months was very relevant to today, of how we rise above this. And it's a lot of how I've done it in my life too. The last 5 years, coming out of a divorce, coming out of, settling it all up, coming out of a lot of turmoil and chaos with that experience. I've had to do a lot of the same things he did, was connect with a lot of different activities and experiences and opportunities to grow myself.
Yeah, no, that's a great example, Derek. And knowing your son, I vouch for the fact that he's a remarkable young man. And spent some time with him end of December, and he seems to have reached just a level of maturity and growth that is very impressive for a young man in today's age. So
Yeah.
very, very, very good story. Cool. And we are getting a little bit close on time here. So why don't we go around the horn and wrap this up a little bit? We've hit on some really key stuff today. I think for first time in our session, we've two of us were on one side and dealing with this, and we had Doug tell us the other side of the story. So that was actually a really good dynamic. So, why don't we go around? So I talked about the fact that about 10 years ago, realizing based upon my meditation journey, my self-improvement journey, that um, aligning, accepting what is, aligning to my values, and taking mission or values-based risks was worth it, right? And something that I needed to do. And reflecting on what Doug said, think more of what I am, my perception of myself or my opinion of myself, than others' opinion of me, right? Matter of fact, it's none of my business what others' opinions are of me. It's my opinion of myself is the only one that I need to be concerned about. And then just taking decisive action, learning to, like you say, Derek, do skydiving. For me, it was other things that we've talked a little bit about here. So other things in my career that I've done, but taking small incremental steps to build some self-confidence, build some habits around that, so that it's not just fear and paralysis analysis. It is more, I'm taking deliberate action. I'm feeling more comfortable about it, and I'm feeling better about myself. And again, like we've said at least 17 times on the call here today, I can only focus what's in my control, and we can't control the outcomes. Doug.
And I guess it's not to say that choices I've made haven't not worked out. So I have made choices. I have gone, why not? I'm going for it, and they haven't worked out. But a lot of times, as you're evaluating different options, you think about, like, going back to the skydiving thing. If that doesn't work out, you slam into the ground and die. So you evaluate different decisions based on the severity of what could go wrong. But what I tend to do is focus more on what could go right, and
Mhm.
get excited about, like,
Yeah.
get excited about moving towards that thing. Again, rejection, to your point, is the evaluation and judgment of others versus you deciding how you want to look at what happened, and then how you want to learn from it. Going back to your Michael Jordan quote, is like, I mean, just go for it, on to the next one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you missed one of those 26 shots. Next
Yeah.
time you still want to be asked to take that game winning shot. But I will quickly anecdotally say, I do have irrational fears at different times, not dancing, or uh, uh, what was it? Anyway, not dancing, but skydiving or that kind of thing. But for many years, I struggled with the idea of getting on a cruise ship or getting on a plane that flies over a body of water. And, like, to your all's point, like, that's out of your control. Like, you're not the pilot, you're not the ship. What's a ship driver? You're not the ship driver, but, like, they get onto a huge body of water, and, like, I may not be able to swim back to shore. Incredible. And it did prevent me from traveling over time, because I would worry a little bit about weird things like that. But anyways, what I want y'all to take away from today is, think about what could go right. Think about the why not,
Yeah.
and be
I,
kind to
I,
yourself.
Of course. And Doug, I think that may be the quote of the day. Focus on what could go right. And I remember you giving me this advice
Yeah.
3 years ago, right when I
Yeah.
was going through a major decision point, and because I tend not to think that way. I tend to think focus on what could go wrong. What are the pitfalls? But great
Yeah. We were
advice.
both
Great advice.
evaluating job changes, and you were showing one side of it, and I was showing the other because you'd be like, "Hey, you think you're going to do it?" I'm like, "Yep." And you're like, "Hey, you think you're going to do it?" 6 months later, dude, you should do it. Go, Patrick. Go.
Yep, exactly. Derek,
Yeah, I just quickly just say jump out of the plane and
with a
Dance
parachute,
on your
John.
way
With
down.
a parachute, yes.
yeah, with the of course got with safety measures, but jump out of the plane and when and turn the no that you're telling yourself or someone else is telling yourself into yes for yourself. And so I think that's just like looking at for the yes, the looking for what it is that you want to have happen or how you want to move forward. Find your yes. That's what I would say.
Yeah, got it. All right, I think we are a wrap for today. So thanks for spending some time with us, folks. Keep in mind, personal transformation is possible. And have a great week, and we'll see you on the flip side. Thank you.
Bye,
See ya.
everyone.